Elon Musk and DOGE are betraying the American veteran, stabbing the American people in the back who served our great country, risked their lives to keep America free. And I am utterly disgusted. Welcome back to Strongman Personal Finance. I see these articles popping up talking about how Elon Musk and his DOGE Department of Government Efficiency, are laying off veterans. And even worse, they're laying off disabled veterans. And to me, as a veteran myself with lots of disabilities, I mean, look at me. Look at my face. Totally disabled. I am utterly disgusted and appalled that the U.S. government, which has been captured by a right-wing fascist dictator, has the audacity to lay off thousands, tens of thousands, and maybe even hundreds of thousands of federal workers who just want to support their families and want to serve this great country. Oh, and everything I just said is absolute nonsense. So, is DOGE firing veterans? Yes, it is. Is DOGE firing disabled veterans? Yes, it is. Are veterans being stabbed in the back because they're being fired? Absolutely freaking not. As a matter of fact, and this may be a radical opinion, I believe that the government enabling veterans to stay in the government industrial welfare complex is actually the true stab in the back. Because as a veteran myself, most of the time what you do in the Army or, whatever service you're in, you don't really learn like applicable skills in the private sector. Now, obviously there are some jobs in the military where you do. For example, mechanics. Obviously they're fixing freaking tanks and crap. They're working on engines. They're fixing stuff. You can do that in the private sector. But there's a ton of jobs in the military industrial welfare complex where you don't learn any applicable skills. I mean, you might learn leadership, that's kind of like a general soft skill. But you don't learn things that are helpful and that can actually generate a livable wage in the private sector. For example, I was infantry, okay? So I learned how to, move around men and flank enemy positions and, set up patrol bases and blah, 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 blah. And when you look at the private sector, where is that transferable? It's not. So what the military industrial welfare complex does is it offers an out for veterans who are separating from the military. It says, hey, veteran, you don't need to go into the private sector and learn a real skill. You can instead stay within the government system and work a federal government job and not have to provide much value to society. Now, I give a lot of hate to federal employees, okay? They're not all bad. They're not all scum, but there's a huge problem and it needs to be fixed. And I believe giving veterans basically an easy out is toxic to their long-term success and their long-term happiness. The feds actually give hiring preference to veterans. If you're a veteran and you have some kind of rating, disability rating, you get preferential hiring. You actually get considered over normal people applying for federal jobs. And the result of that is, I believe 36% of the federal workforce are veterans. Now, veterans are not common in the United States. I mean, back in the day, World War II, they were. But in modern America, there's really not that many veterans. I think it's like probably less than 2% of the population ever served in the military. So when you see the federal government have 36%, this is a number I saw in an article, 36% of federal employees are veterans and disabled veterans. To me, that really saddens me because a lot of veterans get out of the military because they don't like it. They don't like the stupid government life. Because in the military, you sit around a lot. I mean, it's just boring. I mean, sometimes you do cool and exciting stuff, but the vast majority of the time, you're just sitting around with your thumb up your you-know-what, waiting for the captain or the major or the colonel to tell you what to do. And people get out. They don't like deployments. They don't like getting shot at. I don't freaking blame them, okay? But then these veterans make a terrible decision. And I did this myself. I'm not necessarily hating on them that much because it's such an easy decision to make. They decide to go straight, running right back into the arms of the government. Those warm, silky, cushiony arms of the government. And they say, oh man, now that I'm out of the military, I gotta learn a new skill, and that's hard. But instead, I could just join the feds, and they're gonna hire me because I get preference. I'm gonna get basically hired, especially if I'm a disabled veteran. And they get locked in their entire life into this, military industrial welfare complex. And I think a lot of them are miserable. I think a lot of them are just counting down the clock, waiting to get that pension so they can cash out and finally enjoy their lives at 60, which is not what you should be doing, okay? It's an affront. It is a betrayal of veterans to give them the incentive to not get a skill in the private sector. Because if you're forced as a veteran to get a skill in the private sector, yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah, you're probably not going to make as much, in the beginning at your cushy government job. But in the long run, once you get a skill and you get really good at that skill, accounting, nursing, blah, 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 all the different, specific skill sets, over time, I think you actually take more pride in yourself and you actually live a freer, happier life because you're not beholden to some large bureaucracy that changes every 4 years with a new president and the new president's priorities. And instead, you're free to choose your own destiny. You can work for a corporation. You can quit that corporation whenever you want. You're not trapped with golden handcuffs by a pension. You can start your own business. The world is your oyster in the private sector. You're free. You're not a slave to the government. But instead, we give veterans welfare. That's what it is. That's what it is. It's welfare because we give them jobs that really don't do that much to make sure veterans keep getting paid. So I'm not saddened by the fact that veterans are getting fired. Okay, you served your country. I get it, but your country also gave you a GI Bill. Okay, you signed the dotted line. You said, I'll serve my country. I'll be a hero. In exchange, you pay for my freaking college. You have the GI Bill. You have subsidized freaking home loans. You probably have some VA disability rating where you're getting a check every month, tax-free for the rest of your life. You're in the best position to join the private sector. You are better off than the average American. And instead of doing that, you run right back to the government. Not good. The government is slavery. They own you. Because you have to do exactly what they say, and you can't quit, because if you quit, you lose your pension and that sweet government check. And people fall for it, and I freaking fell for it briefly. When I got out of the Army, I ended up at NASA. And I regret making that decision because I actually had an internship offer to work for a tax firm, kind of close to my parents' house. But I turned that internship down because NASA gave me an offer. And I said, I don't have to study accounting or I don't have to get the CPA. I could just be a government guy, get paid pretty well, and just chill, bro. And that actually hurt me. That kept me back. The government giving me the incentive to work for the feds held me back. Because I didn't gain real applicable skills that I could use in the private sector to start my own business and to actually be truly free. Instead, I sat around the government and did a bunch of freaking worthless nonsense dealing with stupid, incompetent, lazy people. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good. So honestly, I'm very happy that DOGE is firing veterans, especially disabled veterans. Most disabled veterans are freaking frauds. They just make up freaking maladies and sicknesses, and they pretend like, yeah, when I went up to D.C., I got PTSD. Yeah, I'm sure you did, okay? So what the government should do going forward is actually have veterans non-preference. If you're a veteran and you apply for a federal job, you should get -5 points. Veterans should be forced into the private sector because they have the capacity and the benefits to be able to make it in the private sector, especially with the freaking GI Bill, probably VA healthcare, probably VA home loan, VA disability. You're set up. You don't need the government. Get away from it, Okay? So Elon Musk firing veterans, not a freaking betrayal. Okay, I think it's a good thing in the long run. It's going to hurt in the short term, but I think it's good for you in the long run. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. Do you think I'm just completely insane? Is the government not slavery? It's actually, a great place where you can, really express yourself and, learn valuable skills and actually take pride in your work. Or, do you think I'm completely full of crap? Anyway, like, subscribe, check out the pinned comment, book a free tax consultation with me. I am a certified public accountant. I will do your business and or personal taxes in 2024. You can talk to me for free. I give you upfront quotes, and I will prepare your taxes any state in the United States. Have a wonderful day. Cheers!